Alright, so when we left Symbiote Spider-Man issue 2, Peter's life had just been turned upside down in the new reality he thought he was going to stay in. So we pick up with issue 3. Obviously, Peter's going to get into the magic game some. You can see he's kind of wearing Doctor Strange's get up. So we know at some point, at least from the cover, he's going to dabble in magic. So let's continue on. We get to Doctor Strange's place where Hobgoblin is arguing with Wong and turns him into a monkey, a little monkey toy with symbols. And we have Doctor Strange with Natasha and Peter. He takes him back to the one place that he can hide on Earth without being tracked. It was his master's place, but Morbius has found them. Spider-Man and Morbius getting a little fight, which doesn't last very long because once they get to the mansion or whatever, the magic seals prevent Morbius from coming in. Morbius tells him, he'll wait out there till the end of time for him. He's a vampire. Time's not a deal for him. And Doctor Strange is talking about how he's got to teach Peter to do some magic. And Peter's like, I don't have years to learn this stuff. And Doctor Strange explains to him that time works differently in the dimension they're in versus his real dimension, that what would be years here would be days in his other dimension, weeks maybe a week. So Peter agrees to be trained. We have the symbiote Spider-Man approaching Morbius, and we can tell it's a little more violent. He goes on a very violent attack on Morbius, and Doctor Strange confronts him right before he can kill Morbius, and he's like, I know your secret. I know you're just driving Peter around. This isn't Peter doing this. This is the symbiote. And he's like, but I'll make you a deal if you let me teach Peter, then I'll keep your secret and I won't tell Peter about what you are because the symbiote wants to get back to their reality. And Doctor Strange, the symbiote doesn't want to stay there that long and learn that stuff. And Doctor Strange makes a deal with him. If you stay, I'll keep your secret from Peter. So Peter goes through a year of training in magic, and Doctor Strange, he's like, I'm afraid of what the symbiote will do with the magic, so I'm just teaching Peter defensive maneuvers instead of offensive. And he's like, I'm relying on his natural abilities to win on the offensive side. So here it goes. We're a year later. We got Dr. Octopus robbing a bank. Spider-Man comes in, starts doing his magic thing, and takes Octopus out pretty quick. So he gets pretty egotistic, thinks he already knows everything he needs to take on Hobgoblin. They're kind of watching Doctor Strange's old place, and Peter kind of rushes the ball, tells him it's been a year, I've got to get back. Him and Natasha invade Hobgoblin's sanction. Peter casts a spell to make duplicates of himself for Hobgoblin to fight, and we find out that the actual Sorcerer Supreme, because we have to remember in issue 1, Wong said that Hobgoblin was an acolyte of the Sorcerer Supreme. The Sorcerer Supreme here is Baron Mordor, or Mordo, or Mordo. So they get in a little altercation. Doctor Strange confronts him, and Mordo is basically, "What are you going to do? You know, you don't have all the magic skills you had before." So Doctor Strange maces him and goes to take the eye back from him. Uh, Mordo takes control of the situation, but they end up leaving. Peter and Doctor Strange end up leaving, and Mordo gets kind of mad at Natasha and starts hollering about how can you help him, and she tells him basically to shut up and she's got to handle everything herself, and that's how this issue ends. So apparently Natasha has been playing him the whole time. Uh, I guess we'll see more how that plays out next issue. But I knew there had to be something more with this Natasha and Black Cat angle. So apparently she is in league with Mordo and the Hobgoblin, I guess. But we have Peter who knows a little bit of magic now, and he put up a decent fight with Hobgoblin until Mordo got in. He hasn't learned enough magic to take on Mordo, at least not yet. So it was an interesting surprise. I don't know a lot about Baron Mordo, uh, but I know enough about him that he's one of Doctor Strange's big foes. So I'm still very interested in where the story goes. This so far, this has had a lot of this story in general. Overall, the 3 issues we've gone through so far has had a lot of twists and turns in each issue. Uh, there's a lot of stuff, like the Natasha, I guess, working against them the whole time. I mean, I kind of had a hint something was going on, but I didn't know this was going on. So that was a twist. The Baron Mordo was a twist. Aunt May dying because of Peter, and Uncle Ben turning against Peter. That was a twist. Hobgoblin in the first issue having the magic powers was a twist. There was a lot of twists and turns in this story so far. We've still got 2 issues left. So art wise, let's go ahead and lay down the grade on the art. It's still Greg Land, so we're still talking 8.5 on the art scale. I'm still giving it an 8.5. The story, while I don't feel like it was as good of a story as last issue, I feel like it is still kept miles ahead of what's coming out now. So just for that fact alone, it gets a 7.5. Because I mean, it wasn't a bad story. It's just how do you beat what happened last issue with Aunt May dying because of Peter? I mean, it's we got to be fair at the same time. Like it's hard to. That's a big thing to overcome right there. For a next issue to exceed that. So yeah, I feel good with a 7.5 for it. So overall, I would still give this issue probably overall. I'd give it a 7.5. So we will be going over the next issue here in the next day or two.